Did your family have favorites? If so, were you the favorite or someone else?
My entire family got together last month for a big reunion, rented a house, flew in from 3 different states, spent 4 full days together laughing, drinking, cooking, and doing a professional photo shoot in matching outfits. And I didn't even know it was happening. I found out about it like a total stranger, just scrolling on Facebook while waiting in line at the pharmacy. There it was, the full group, standing in front of some big cabin-style house, with everyone tagged. My mom, my brother Ryan, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, even a few people I barely remembered from childhood. Everyone looked so happy. And I wasn't in a single picture. Because I wasn't invited. Not even informed. Not even mentioned. At first, I just stared at the post for a full minute, waiting for my brain to make sense of it. Maybe it was old? Maybe it was from last year? Maybe I was tagged in another post and I just hadn't seen it yet. But no. I checked the timestamp. Posted that morning. The comments were fresh. Someone wrote, "So great to see the whole family together again." Another wrote, "Tell Lisa we missed her." Lisa, my cousin who lives in Germany. Apparently, I didn't even make the missed list. It wasn't just a get-together. It was planned. Coordinated. People booked flights. There were custom t-shirts. A cousin had brought a cake with all our names on it, all except mine, of course. They had time to coordinate photographers, catering, and a whole shared Google Photos album, and somehow, not one person thought to text me. Not even a, "Hey, this is happening, you coming?" Nothing. And here's the part that stung the most. I live 1 hour away. 1 hour. I'm not out of state. I'm not hard to reach. I've been working from home for the last 2 years. I'm the most reachable I've ever been in my life. And yet, my entire family managed to pretend like I didn't exist for 4 days. I didn't react right away. I didn't comment or message anyone. I just sat with it. I know myself, I can be blunt when I'm upset, and I didn't want to come in guns blazing and regret something. So I gave it a day. Then I called my mom. The way she answered the phone, casual, breezy, like nothing had happened, it actually made my skin crawl. I asked her how the reunion went. She paused for a second, clearly surprised that I even knew. Then she gave this weird little chuckle and said, "Oh, you saw the photos? It was nice." It all came together so fast, we didn't think to invite anyone last minute. I asked her if my invite got lost. She said no, there wasn't really an invite, it was just a spontaneous thing. I asked how something spontaneous includes custom shirts and a photographer. She dodged it. I asked why Ryan didn't call me. She said he assumed you wouldn't want to come. You're always working. That right there? That sentence? That's when I knew it wasn't an accident. It was a choice. This wasn't about me being busy. This was about me being the outsider in my own damn family. Because I'm the one who didn't marry, didn't have kids, didn't come to every holiday with a casserole and a fake smile. I've got a stable job, a quiet apartment, no drama, and no mess. I help when they ask, I lend money when they're short, and I never complain. And somehow, that turned me into the background character in my own bloodline. But Ryan? My younger brother? The golden child? He can't keep a job longer than a year, bounced around between 3 different girlfriends in the last 5 years, and still borrows money from mom like he's 15. And they treat him like the second coming of Christ. He shows up, and everyone's thrilled. I show up, and people start tidying up and checking the time. Still, I let it go. Or I told myself I did. I wasn't going to beg to be included. I wasn't going to chase anyone for attention. Let them have their little family party. If they wanted to pretend I wasn't part of it, fine. I didn't need a seat at their fake table. But then, and this is the part that blew my mind, 2 weeks later, Ryan calls me. Just like that. Out of nowhere. No, hey, sorry we didn't call you for the reunion. No acknowledgement of anything. Just jumps right into it. Hey, we're planning the baby shower, he says, like we're on the same team. Mom said you might be able to help out with some of the costs. We're doing a big one, so it'd mean a lot. I almost laughed. I had to double-check that I heard him right. I said, "You mean the baby shower for the kid I wasn't even told about until 2 months ago? The one you're having with the girlfriend I've met once?" He kind of chuckled and said, "Yeah, well, we've all been busy." I said, so you can organize a reunion for 40 people and book a photographer, but no one had time to send me a single text. He said, "Come on, don't make this about that. This is about the baby. We all need to chip in." And that's when I felt something shift in me. Something final. Because it wasn't just about the money. It was about what they thought I was. A wallet. A resource. Someone they could ignore for fun, then turn to when the bill comes. Someone they could forget existed for 4 days straight, then expect to fund their party. I said no. Calm. Clear. No emotion. He got quiet for a second. Then said, "Wait, what do you mean no?" I said, "I mean I'm not helping. Not this time. You've got a whole family who apparently loves to plan things without me. Ask them." He said, "Are you serious right now?" I said, "Dead serious. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." He started to push, trying to guilt me, trying to say I was punishing the baby, which is just wild. I told him I wasn't punishing anyone. I was just opting out. Like they did. I hung up before he could say more. And I figured that was the end of it. But it wasn't. Because a few nights later, I was reviewing some things from work. I handle contractor onboarding for a mid-sized company. Part of my job is managing benefit approvals, and I noticed something interesting. Ryan, through a friend of mine, had been hired months ago as a contractor for a project, and because he came in through my referral, I was the one who processed his initial benefits paperwork. Health coverage, vision, dental, all approved through me. And the contract was up for renewal at the end of the month. I didn't click anything. Not yet. But I sat there for a long time, just staring at the screen, thinking about how quiet and clean revenge can be. No shouting. No scenes. Just a simple, invisible decision. And that's when the idea came. When I said no to Ryan over the phone, I knew there would be some kind of pushback, because that's just how it's always worked in our family. You say no once, and suddenly you're the selfish one, the difficult one, the one who's turned cold. Even if you've spent your entire adult life cleaning up after other people's mistakes, stepping in when things fell apart, and covering bills no one else wanted to take responsibility for. But I honestly didn't expect the reaction to come so fast or be so coordinated. It was like they had a little group chat running, and within 24 hours, they were all suddenly activated, pulling out every emotional manipulation trick they had stored up over the years. It started with Ryan texting me 3 times in the same hour, each message slightly more passive-aggressive than the last. The first one just said, "Can you think about it again?" Followed by, "It's not for me, it's for the baby," and then, "I hope you're not letting old grudges get in the way of doing the right thing." Then my mom called that evening, and I made the mistake of picking up, thinking maybe, just maybe, she'd have something balanced to say, or at least acknowledge that I had a right to feel the way I did after being shut out of the reunion. But of course, that wasn't the reason she called. She launched straight into it with this disappointed, weary tone she uses when she wants to sound like the reasonable one, but every word is just a carefully constructed guilt trap. She said, "I just talked to Ryan. He told me what you said. I have to admit, I'm a little surprised by your tone." I told her I wasn't in the mood to be guilt-tripped and that I was done pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. She sighed and said, "Honey, you've always been so independent. We didn't think you'd be interested in the family stuff anymore." That one hit me hard, not because it was true, but because it was the most absurd, lazy justification for alienating someone I'd ever heard. It was the verbal equivalent of saying, "You seemed fine without us, so we just moved on." I asked her point blank, was I not invited to the reunion, and her response was basically a shrug disguised as a sentence. It just kind of came together. There wasn't a formal invite. I told her it was hard to believe that when the event had coordinated outfits and professional photography. She brushed that off and circled back to the baby shower, saying, "Look, I don't want to argue. Ryan's going through a lot. They're stressed, and every bit of help counts. You're in a position to help. That's what family does." I reminded her that family also invites you to things. Family checks in. Family doesn't go off and plan an entire reunion without mentioning it to the one person who, incidentally, has never asked for a thing but has been there every single time they did. Her voice changed then. She dropped the disappointed act and went into full defense mode. She said something like, "You can't hold one weekend against everyone. This is about a baby, not about your feelings." And in that moment, I realized something that felt both crushing and clarifying. In their eyes, I had no emotional currency. I wasn't the person you consider, or include, or cherish. I was the backup plan. The reliable one. The one you call when you need something, never before. I told her, clearly and without raising my voice, that I wasn't contributing to the shower and, more importantly, I wasn't available for any more financial requests from the family. Not until there was some actual recognition of how they'd been treating me. She gave me the silent pause, the one she gives when she's trying to process the fact that I'm not caving like usual. Then she said something that stuck with me. "Well, if you want to alienate yourself, that's your choice." That was the moment I knew they'd already alienated me. I was just finally choosing to stop pretending they hadn't. After I hung up, I sat on my couch in this weird, numb kind of silence, not even angry anymore, just tired. Not tired like I needed sleep, tired like I was done playing a role that never fit me to begin with. And as I sat there, my laptop still open from earlier, I noticed the HR portal still active on the screen. The document I had pulled up earlier was Ryan's onboarding file from the staffing agency I helped him get into. 6 months ago, when he was unemployed again and between gigs, he had called me in a panic, said he was running out of options, and needed anything to get him back on his feet. I didn't hesitate. I pulled a string with a friend who runs a contracting firm we partner with, and we brought Ryan in on a temp basis for a light-duty project that didn't require much. Through our partnership, he qualified for basic healthcare, which I personally authorized on our end as the program liaison. And now, staring at that file, I saw the exact renewal date, end of the month, 2 weeks away. His coverage, health, dental, vision, was set to expire unless I approved an extension. Here's the thing most people don't realize about admin roles like mine. We don't make policy, but we are the gatekeepers. We don't break rules, but we know exactly how they work. The contract was always time-bound. If I didn't extend it, it simply ended. Nothing illegal. Nothing retaliatory. Just a choice not to intervene. I didn't do anything that night. I didn't click decline. I didn't terminate anything. But I did close the file and sit back and think about the pattern that had been playing out for years. Me, showing up, solving problems, smoothing things over, and never once being seen as more than a tool in a drawer they only open when something breaks. And suddenly, the idea of not extending that pattern felt like the most natural, honest decision I could make. I wasn't seeking revenge. I wasn't trying to cause harm. I was simply done subsidizing the comfort of people who couldn't be bothered to treat me like family unless there was a price tag attached. So I made a decision. I would let the clock run out. No renewal. No warning. Just a quiet shift in the balance, one that they wouldn't notice until it mattered. One that would force them, maybe for the first time, to understand what it means when the person you always count on decides they're done being counted. And in the days that followed, as the messages slowed down and the silence stretched, I waited. Because I knew the moment of impact was coming. And it was going to be loud. It didn't even take a full week for the storm to begin, which honestly surprised me a little, because I thought maybe, just maybe, they wouldn't notice right away, that maybe Ryan wouldn't catch it until closer to the baby's due date, or that it might take a confusing call from the insurance company before someone connected the dots. But it turns out, the moment you touch something real, like someone's health coverage, the kind they've come to expect without question, the moment you interrupt a safety net they didn't even thank you for setting up, suddenly everyone becomes very alert, very responsive, and very emotional, all at once. The first message came in the form of a frantic text from Ryan, landing on my phone late at night, around 10:30, just as I was brushing my teeth and getting ready to call it a night. It read, in that careless, abrupt tone he always uses when he's stressed and assumes I'm standing by like his personal fixer, "Hey, something's wrong with the insurance. Can you check on it tomorrow? It's saying coverage ends this month." No hello, no context, not even a question mark. Just an order, like I'm a receptionist at a walk-in clinic. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because I already knew what he was seeing, and I already knew he wasn't prepared for the answer. The next day, He followed up with a voicemail, more panicked this time, his voice tense, talking fast, trying to mask the urgency with irritation, as if being annoyed with me might somehow pressure me into solving the problem. He said something like, "Look, I don't know what happened, but my HR info says coverage is ending, and I thought this was supposed to be a year-long contract. Can you call me? Or talk to someone? I've got a baby coming, for God's sake." There it was. The plea wrapped in guilt. The implication that I owed him something simply because he was about to become a father, as if parenthood was a magic wand that erased every previous choice and expected others to fall in line with their support, no matter how they'd been treated before. Still, I didn't answer. I didn't call back. I didn't check on anything, not because I was being cruel, but because the truth was simple. His contract was structured to end, and unless someone intervened, unless someone actively extended the benefits, they would expire as written. There was no policy violation. No sabotage. Just silence where there had once been favors. I'd simply let the structure do what it was designed to do when no one touched it. Stop. By the end of the week, the panic had spread to my mother, which didn't surprise me at all, because in our family, when Ryan starts to feel like the world isn't revolving around him fast enough, he runs straight to Mom and hands her the steering wheel, confident she'll make it her mission to course correct. And she did. She called me that Saturday afternoon, voice already raised before I even said hello, skipping the greetings entirely and going straight into full-blown indignation. What the hell is going on with Ryan's health insurance? Not, "How are you?" Not, "Can we talk?" Just pure confrontation. I let her speak for nearly a full minute without interrupting, because it felt important to let her expose exactly how they viewed me, not as someone with her own boundaries or principles, but as a switchboard operator whose only purpose was to keep things running smoothly for everyone else, regardless of how they treated me. She accused me of putting Ryan's family in danger, of acting out of spite, of taking revenge in a moment when we should all be coming together. I finally interrupted her, not loudly, but firmly, and said, "Mom, his contract ended. That's all. I didn't cancel anything. I didn't block anything. The coverage just expired like it was supposed to, because it was a temporary position and the extension wasn't submitted." She paused then, only for a second, and I could tell she was trying to figure out whether I was telling the truth or just playing technical games. So I continued, "I didn't go in and sabotage anything. I didn't delete files or make fake calls. I just didn't intervene. That's all. For once, I let something run its natural course, instead of jumping in to clean up after Ryan, and now he's mad that I'm not his safety net anymore." Instead of acknowledging that, instead of even pretending to understand my side, she doubled down. She said, "You've always been so cold. You act like nothing touches you, but you're just punishing people because they don't live up to your standards." I felt something in me harden then, something that had probably been soft for too long, some leftover hope that, maybe, deep down, someone in my family would understand that I wasn't being cold. I was protecting myself from being used again and again by people who refused to even admit they'd hurt me. I said, "No, I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just done being taken for granted. You all made your choices. You all decided who belonged and who didn't. So now, you get to live with the people you chose, without my help." She hung up on me. That night, Ryan called again, this time from a different number, probably guessing that I had blocked him. I didn't answer. Then he left me a voice message I'll never forget, not because it hurt me, but because it was the first time he said the quiet part out loud. He said, "You think you're better than everyone just because you make more money and have your life together, but guess what? That doesn't make you family. Family shows up. And right now, you're failing." I played that message twice. Not because I was unsure of my decision, but because it confirmed exactly why I made it. They expected me to show up no matter what, but they never asked themselves whether they'd shown up for me, not once. And in a strange way, that voicemail gave me peace. Because it proved that, for the first time in years, my silence had weight. My no had power. And they didn't know what to do with it. But they weren't done yet. Because 3 days later, Ryan sent me a message that changed the tone entirely. He said, "If you don't fix this, I'm going to tell your job what you did. I'll tell them you're abusing your position. You'll lose everything. That's when I stopped feeling sorry for him. That's when I started planning what came next. When Ryan sent that message threatening to expose me to my employer, something shifted in me, not out of fear, not out of anxiety, but out of a quiet, razor-sharp realization that we had officially crossed a line and there would be no coming back from this. It's one thing to be taken for granted, to be used for your time, your money, or your silence. It's a whole different story when the people who've lived off your generosity start to weaponize fear and try to turn the very things you gave them into ammunition against you. And in that moment, reading his words, "You'll lose everything," I didn't feel guilt or anger or even sadness. I just felt clarity. Because when someone shows you how far they're willing to go when you stop serving their needs, that's when you finally understand who they've always been. I didn't respond to the message. I didn't dignify it with outrage or warnings or legal jargon. Instead, I did what I've always done. I got ahead of it. I printed everything. Every document. Every timestamp. Every email approving Ryan's temporary contract. Every detail of the original health benefits packet. Every log showing the expiration notice that was system-generated without my interference. I gathered it all and brought it to our HR compliance officer first thing the next morning, not because I thought there would be a problem, but because I wanted it documented. I wanted it on the record, not the dramatic, my brother's trying to ruin my life story, but the simple truth that I had followed every rule, that I had not exercised any personal control over his benefits that wasn't within the policy framework, and that I had, in fact, allowed his coverage to continue longer than the initial contract allowed. My compliance officer, who I've worked with for years and who knows I don't get involved in petty nonsense, looked through the packet, nodded, and said, "You're fine. But thanks for flagging it." That was it. No drama. No panic. Just preparation. And as I walked back to my office, I realized that this, right here, was why they feared me now, because I didn't panic, I didn't lash out, and I didn't give them the emotional chaos they were hoping for. I just moved pieces they didn't know I controlled, and I did it in silence. That afternoon, I got a call I didn't expect. It wasn't from Ryan or my mother. It was from Ryan's girlfriend, the one who's pregnant, the one I had met once, briefly, at a birthday party and had exchanged no more than 20 words with. Her voice, when I picked up, was shaky but polite, like someone trying to pretend everything was okay while holding back something much heavier. She said, "Hi, I know this is awkward, and I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but Ryan's been really upset, and I just wanted to ask if there's anything we can do to fix this. I know things got heated, but the baby's coming soon, and we just want to make sure everything's in place." I sat there, holding the phone, listening to her talk, and for a moment, I felt that flicker of softness, that old habit of stepping in, smoothing things over, fixing what others had broken. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't blaming me. She was scared, and as someone who has spent her entire adult life trying to be the calm one, the fixer, the stable sister, my instinct was to reach for a solution. But then she said something that erased that instinct in a second. She said, "Honestly, I had no idea there was this much history. At the reunion, Ryan just said you weren't really part of the family like that you like to keep your distance, so we didn't push it." I asked her to repeat it, just to be sure I heard it right. She said, "He said you wouldn't have wanted to come anyway. That you always act like you're better than everyone." And there it was. The answer I had been waiting for. The truth I had suspected but hadn't yet heard confirmed in plain language. It wasn't an oversight. It wasn't a mistake. It was calculated. Ryan told them not to invite me. He decided, for everyone, that I wasn't part of the family. And the others went along with it. Not one person questioned it. Not one person thought to call me directly, to double-check, to include me anyway. They all just let it happen because he framed me as the one who walked away, when really, he was the one who locked the door. I let her finish talking. I didn't interrupt. I didn't explain. I just said, "I appreciate you calling, and I hope everything goes smoothly with the baby. But I can't help. And I won't reconsider." She said she understood, but I could hear the edge of panic in her voice, that creeping fear of a system unraveling at the worst possible time. And for once, I didn't rush in to catch the falling pieces. I let the silence stand. I let the natural consequences of their choices play out. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No calls. No messages. Just complete radio silence, like the moment before a storm hits. And then, out of nowhere, I got a call from my dad. My dad, who hasn't been an active part of any family drama for over a decade, who divorced my mom when I was in college and has mostly stayed on the sidelines, civil, distant, always pleasant at holidays, but never involved in the day-to-day nonsense, called me on a Tuesday evening, sounding more serious than I'd heard in years. He said, "I just wanted to tell you something because I think you deserve to know." I braced myself because any sentence that starts like that is never about something small. He said, "I talked to your uncle the other day, the one who hosted the reunion. He said Ryan told everyone not to invite you. Told them you were too judgmental, that you'd just show up and make everyone uncomfortable. And your mom, she backed him. She told the family not to reach out." I sat there in silence, letting the words land, not because I was shocked, I wasn't, not really, but because hearing it from someone who had no reason to lie made it all the more undeniable. They hadn't just forgotten me. They had erased me. On purpose. And now, because the scaffolding they built on top of that lie was starting to crack, they were looking for me to come back and hold it up. But I wouldn't. That night, I submitted a formal directive to our company's vendor team, stating that I would no longer be sponsoring or facilitating contractor opportunities for any family members, effective immediately. No need to name names. Just a clean, professional decision to draw a boundary that should have existed years ago. Ryan wouldn't be extended. No new projects. No backdoors. From now on, if they wanted anything, they'd have to go through the same process as everyone else, with no shortcuts, no favors, and no access to me. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel like I had to explain myself. I didn't even feel the need to respond to the inevitable texts that would come once they realized the door was closed for good. Because this wasn't revenge. This was me stepping out of the role they'd cast me in without my consent. This was me walking off the stage entirely. And leaving them to perform the rest of their show without me. When I hung up that call with my father, my hands didn't shake and my heart didn't race. There was no outburst, no tears, no crumbling inside. Instead, there was just this incredibly strange, almost serene awareness that everything I had ever quietly suspected about my place in that family was not only true, but had been confirmed in such a final, clean-cut way that there would never be a need for another round of forgiveness or one more attempt to earn respect or inclusion that should have been mine by birthright. In that one phone call, what had always been a vague sense of exclusion, subtle, dismissible, often dressed up as accidental, had finally been stripped bare, and I saw it for what it was, an intentional, deliberate campaign to keep me on the outside while still expecting me to finance their inside world. And what really stuck in my mind, more than the betrayal itself, more than Ryan's audacity or my mother's complicity, was the sheer calculation of it all, the way they had collectively decided that I was somehow optional as a human being, expendable in every emotional context, but indispensable when it came to logistics, planning, or, of course, money. That was the dynamic I had lived under for years, and until recently, I had been so used to operating within it, quietly solving problems, picking up dropped balls, offering support without acknowledgement, that I hadn't even fully registered how deeply embedded it had become in the family culture. But now I was wide awake. And when you finally wake up from a long-standing lie, there's no going back to sleep. There's no soft return to playing your assigned role. There's only a choice, whether to walk away and risk being painted as the villain, or to stay and rot from the inside out, knowing full well you were never seen as a person, just a function. I chose to walk. But I didn't walk out in anger, and I didn't slam the door for effect. I walked out like someone who understands systems and structures, someone who knows that real, lasting impact doesn't come from dramatic exits or screaming matches, but from quiet, calculated shifts that permanently alter the balance of power. And so, I kept everything neat, professional, and unarguable. I submitted all the appropriate documentation to HR and vendor management, reinforcing the decision I'd made earlier that no family members would be considered for contract work or internal referrals under my sponsorship moving forward. No names were mentioned, no drama spelled out, just a simple, well-worded policy clarification that locked the door without ever making a sound. And as I finalized those steps, as I tidied up the paperwork that had once tethered Ryan to a job and a healthcare plan he never truly valued or earned, I realized that I was doing something bigger than just protecting myself. I was finally cutting the cord that had kept me emotionally obligated to people who had long since stopped seeing me as more than a resource. I wasn't punishing anyone. I wasn't seeking vengeance. I was just closing an unpaid account. The fallout, of course, didn't take long to hit. A few days after the internal changes were processed, my mother left me a voicemail that was so thick with manufactured heartbreak and performative concern that it would have almost been funny if it hadn't been so insulting. She said, "I don't know what happened to you. You used to care. You used to be part of us. And now, it's like you want nothing to do with the family at all. Is that really what you want, to cut off your brother when he's about to become a father?" And in that moment, I finally understood something that had always confused me. They weren't just oblivious to how they treated me. They had rewritten the story in their own minds so completely that my refusal to be exploited now looked, to them, like cruelty. They genuinely believed that they were the ones being wronged, that I was the one turning cold, all because I no longer allowed them to benefit from a relationship they never actually respected. I didn't respond. I didn't respond to her, or to Ryan, or to the aunt who emailed me some long-winded nonsense about forgiveness and grace, and what family really means, as though I had forgotten those values, when in fact, I had been the only one upholding them this entire time, through my silence, through my financial support, through my unwillingness to hold them accountable for years longer than they deserved. I just let the silence stand. Because sometimes silence is the only language people understand when they've learned to treat every act of kindness as an obligation and every boundary as betrayal. Sometimes silence is the only way to stop being misunderstood, misused, and rewritten in their story as the villain, when really, you were the one holding things together the entire time. I found out through a mutual friend, someone unrelated to the mess, that Ryan's baby was born about 2 weeks later, healthy and fine, delivered at a public hospital under emergency coverage, with some paperwork headaches, but nothing catastrophic. Life went on. He didn't collapse. The world didn't end. And I wasn't needed, not in the way they insisted, not in the way they tried to make me believe. And while I wouldn't call it satisfying, because nothing about this story ends with hugs or redemption, I would call it clarifying. Because for once, I wasn't the one rushing in to make everything okay. I wasn't the one filling the gaps, plugging the leaks, or carrying the emotional labor of people who saw me as little more than a lifeboat with legs. I was just done. I blocked their numbers after that. Not as an act of war, but as an act of peace, my own peace, finally prioritized. I kept my life moving, quietly and steadily, without the weight of people who only remembered my name when it was time to pay a bill or solve a crisis. And it was freeing in a way I can't quite put into words, this quiet rebellion against a system that had operated so smoothly for so long only because I allowed it to. Some people say family is everything. And maybe that's true for them. But for me, family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up. It's who calls you before you find out on Facebook. It's who doesn't try to blackmail you when you say no for the first time in years. And if that's the standard, then no, I don't have a family. Not anymore. And I'm finally okay with that. Now I'll leave you with a question, and I'm genuinely curious to hear what people think, not from a place of drama or bitterness, but from a place of reality. If someone erases you, rewrites your story, exploits your kindness, and then demands your loyalty when it's convenient for them, are they still your family? Or are they just people you used to know? Because I made my choice. And I don't regret a damn thing.